So it's been a while. I'm Christian. This is Crowland. We're a narrative gaming channel. So, how you doing? I've been gone a little while. I'll tell you why. A little bit why I've been so long between videos at the end of it. But I wasn't completely lazy in the while I've been gone. We did produce Wickerpunk, which was our guide for folk horror and heroic fantasy, sort of hung on D&D. We did pretty well. And when I told Scotty that it was time for me to start doing videos again, he goes like, "Look, why don't you do like a little post-mortem on writing Wickerpunk and the Kickstarter?" So here we go. That's Scotty, multicast phrase. Okay, here we go. A post-mortem. By the way, sorry about these silly headphone things, but I can't get the bloody Blue Yeti to work. Anyway, okay. So the origin of the Wickerpunk book itself was really simple. I love folk horror. I always have. I watch a lot of it. I read a lot of it. I love history. I love religion. I love the complicated dynamics of cults and folklores. All that stuff just really works for me. But a few years before, 10, God, longer now, 15 years ago, for Calcium, I'd written a book called The Cruel Empire of San Chan. And it had been well received, actually. I still get fan mail for it. But I'd grown a bit alienated from the RPG scene. Just, not important why. But then I'd gone on to write novels. I've written 6 novels, I've written computer games, I wrote a play once, all sorts of things. But then I had an incredibly bad experience with a publisher that just it's still, 18 months on, has really kind of like, just really devastated my interest in writing fiction for the moment. And so I thought that I would go back to where I felt welcome, which was TTRPG. And so Wickerpunk actually began as a source book for Call of Cthulhu. I really think that Lovecraft counts as a folk horror writer. Those debased religions out in the bayous, aliens lurking around the woods, ancient monoliths, all that stuff is in Lovecraft. And until quite recently, if you wanted to do Lovecraft, you did Call of Cthulhu, that was it. But then D&D 5e went huge. Thank you, Critical Role. I don't watch you, but hooray for you. So I grabbed 5e and I started playing like some campaigns in it. I don't love D&D, but whatever. And in my own games, I was indulging in sort of folk horror themes anyway. Paganism and ancient religions and that conflict of wild versus industry. and I did find that the genre did work actually in D&D, in heroic fantasy. The themes that I presented in the book, wild versus industry, ancient cults, gods being embodied in the world, this whole hostility of nature towards humanity, they all existed pretty well within Dungeons & Dragons and heroic fantasy. And I thought, well, it was a commercial project. So I did swap out to D&D. Now, typically, D&D is not thought of as a great place to run horror. You hit second level, and really, what are you afraid of anymore? You're acid arrowing dudes in the face. You're axe and surging to punch dudes' necks off. A dozen commoners, who you're running your cults under. What are they? A threat to an adventuring party. So fear was the theme. It's folk horror, after all. But how do you alienate and frighten both the players and the characters? That's what I think was the important thing. I like fear. I like the controlled fear in the low-stakes world of play. Now, being scary is a bit out of favour these days. We're very, very concerned about player limits and their comfort, and that's not bad. Oh no, caring about player comfort. But I think that there is artistic and moral value in dread, and doubt and objection and disgust. And I hope I've made a case for it in the book. These are human experiences, and at my table anyway, nothing human is banned. So for me, a big part of the book was making an artistic argument for and giving the tools to create fear and horror. But there's more to folk horror than just boogity-boo or oh my god, guts everywhere. So the writing process was just about identifying all the things that make folk horror and synthesizing that with the good guys win heroics of D&D. I noted all these things down that I'd noticed, and then essentially I was just producing a synthesis of all these things I'd noticed. But then I had to write the mother flipper. Now the actual mechanics of writing a book are... I'm going to be real with you guys. Writing a book, and again, 6 novels, graphic novels, a few TTRPGs, video games. I used to be a games journalist. I'll tell you right now, can be very, very boring to write a book. It's a lot of the time in front of the computer, a lot of the time thinking about one thing. It can be very physically and mentally taxing, especially if your brain is destroyed by the internet like mine. But you get addicted to it. The growing word count, the slow realization that this is becoming real. And the first time is the hardest. But then once you've done it, once you've got a book in your hand, oh man, it's pretty addicting and pretty rewarding. And the trick for me, and I don't know, I'm qualified to give writing advice to anyone, the trick for me was that I had to break things up into chapters. Writing 350 pages, nightmare. Writing 7 lots of 50 pages, easy. And then came the Kickstarter. Guys, I've got to tell you, I fell apart during the Kickstarter, and Scott, my partner, he really stepped up. Let's talk about Scotty for a minute. Conceivably, I could lay out a book by myself, but Scott's profession is a designer. His DVD designs are notable. I recommend, if you want a really, really fantastically laid out book, hire Scotty, multiclass phrase on Twitter. Now, I came to Scott at the right time when he was actually also reconnecting with his gamer roots, which we hadn't talked about beforehand. We'd actually met over 20 years ago now, doing comics together. I think we met in '99. And so we've had, almost a quarter century of partnership, of creative partnership. And I got to tell you, it paid off for me because during the Kickstarter, Scott really took over. And just as a bit of a shout out to him, I think the book looks great. It looks evocative, it's aesthetic, and it's very, very readable. Now, not to overshare, I've got brain problems. I've got multiple sclerosis. I've got brain damage. And my ability to handle fussy, multiple tasks is just saying it's a bit diminished from whatever it used to be. And I'm not a computers guy. I don't know anything about computers. I found understanding and navigating the Kickstarter software, and especially drive-through RPG backend, very difficult indeed. And I found remaining calm in the face of constant questions, sometimes a bit of hostility. It was very stressful. It was kind of like a stress, like a month-long anxiety attack. Scotty saw me melting down. He took over. Props to him. But it got out, and the process was probably not as hard as I thought it was when I was in the moment. So the book came out though, and it was well received, and we're very happy with it. It sells pretty good too. But as part of the postmortem, what I really learned, to anyone wanting to do this kind of thing themselves, take your time and familiarize yourself with the service. Drive through. They were good guys. They were nice people, and they helped us out. But they've got a huge clientele. They've got a lot going on. So don't sort of rely on them in desperation like I did. Take some time and do your research on how they work. That would be my most important lesson, is that if we could have gone in more forearmed, we would have been forewarned. So am I happy with Wickerpunk? No. No one's ever artistically happy with the book. I'm proud of it. I think it's good, but I'm not 100% happy with it. Things I really like are Doug Holgate's cover. He's another 25-year vet of working with me. I think he looks fantastic. Scott's work I've already talked about. Dylan, Emily, Trevor, Kyla, fantastic artists. If you ever want to be put in contact with them, hit me up, and I'll highly recommend them. For me, for my work, it's not that I'm unhappy, it's just that you're never really satisfied, are you? But people write me nice messages about it, so that's pretty good. But important things I learned are, I'm actually going to do a little bit of a spoiler now for our next book, which is probably going to be called Starcore, which is fine for now. Anyway, I think D&D players like rules, so I'd probably have a bit more crunch in there. It's an RPG, it's not an almanac, but the basic layout of what we did, which is just giving tools to the GM and to the players, I think that worked out pretty well and pretty effectively. And if I didn't think it worked well and didn't think it was effective, I probably would have never offered it up for sale. Starcore, which is Wickerpunk but for Lovecraftian horror, will follow essentially the same format. We'll do a little bit more crunch, I think. And ultimately, what we learned is try and work with good people. Try and really be forewarned about all the tricky stuff in the back of actually doing a Kickstarter and releasing a book for sale. And before that, you break it down, keep it from becoming an overwhelming task, I think is important. Okay, so there you go. That was my postmortem on our first Kickstarter. We'll just do some catching up now. Hey, how you been going? Me too. Anyway, so the reason I was away for a long time is that I was actually very, very ill. A lot of complications from my multiple sclerosis just left me very sick, and then I was moving house a lot and just COVID, all the rest of it. But a lot of why I didn't want to do videos anymore is that part of my sickness was that my voice went. You can hear me sometimes I have to repeat, and I just thought I'd go with it and just do a live video and show you. But when I was really bad, I could not properly move my tongue, so I spoke like this. I just lost confidence in being on camera and talking, and I wasn't really having a lot of conversations with people at the time. A lot of emails rather than video chats. But like here I am now. I'm in a new place. I'm right in the heart of Melbourne in Australia. I'm feeling much physically better. I think I've got my little office set up, although it's a bit bare. Hopefully, we'll have some interesting things in the background soon. And yeah, anyway, thanks very much. We will be back and we'll be doing regular videos from here on in, hopefully. Hopefully, I'll also have my microphone fixed up so I don't look silly. And if there's anything that you want me to talk about here on the channel, let me know. It's nice to be back. Thank you to everybody who supported Wickerpunk. Thank you to everybody who wrote nice things about it. I will talk to you guys soon.